Welcome back to the channel, everybody. Today I want to go through the tech cards in Pool 1. So I want to kind of review all of the cards that I really classify as tech cards that are just within Pool 1, so that's up to collection level 214. So these are cards that I think really don't belong in any one archetype, like draw, on reveal, ongoing, etc. I more think they fit into certain tech situations depending on the meta, which could depend on where you're at and your climb. It could depend on what you think your deck's weak against. It could depend on what the hot location is, etc. It's ways to play around those certain situations and just kind of fit into certain decks that will have certain answers here and there. So I'm going to go through the tech cards, kind of give you what they do, when you want to use them in certain situations, and what decks you should be looking to place them in. So up first is Elektra. Now Elektra, it can be splashed pretty much anywhere. She has a 1-cost, 1-power on reveal, destroy a random enemy 1-cost card at this location. So if you're seeing a lot of swarm-based decks, Elektra is really a strong candidate for putting it into your deck as one of your tech options. You don't really ever want to play Elektra on turn 1, but you play her later in the game and you can get a kill on an important 1-cost unit like an Ant-Man possibly, or even just killing a 1-cost unit that's getting buffed by Khazar and Captain America and other buffs is a big damage swing. So she's really good if you're seeing a lot of that where you're playing. And if you have a room for a 1-drop and you think you want another 1-drop in your deck, Elektra's a solid option in that case. Up next is Uatu, the Watcher. So this card is essentially a little odd. He's a 1-cost, 2-power. Once this is in your hand, you can see the unrevealed location. So if you draw this late, it's just a blank text box essentially. But if you have it in your starting hand, it lets you see the other locations. I don't value this one a whole lot. I don't think he's super worth running, but he is interesting in the fact that, if the hot location is something very important where it's going to actually be at, I could see you putting this card in your deck for that week or that day or two that the location is hot, that it's going to be in a large percentage of games. So say, like this past week was Bar Sinister. You don't want to play a unit where Bar Sinister is going to be because you want to play a unit there that's going to get duplicated 3 times so you can get 4 of that unit. So he would let you see where that is early, which would be a good thing. But again, I just don't find his value extremely that great, extremely that high. I mean, again, if it's a situation where the hot location is something that you really, really want to know where it's at, I could see you trying to put him in. But other than that, I don't find him super useful. Armor is a pretty solid tech card. I actually use this in my ongoing deck because it already has an ongoing ability, and I use Spectrum, who gives +2 attack. 2 of these units anyway, but essentially it's a 2-cost 3 attack, which is great value, and cards at this location can't be destroyed. It's got a lot of good uses, actually. I'm very surprised at how much I like this card. So, firstly, obviously, you can protect your own units from things like Elektra if you're in Pool 1, which is, something that's going to kill one of your 1-costs. You can protect your Ant-Man or something with armor, which is great. Or if you're later into the pools, you can protect things from like Shang-Chi, who's in Pool 2, who kills units on the other side of the board, Killmonger, who kills units. It's a solid protection unit, but it actually shuts down enemy destroy decks. So say they play Nova on their side and they want to play Carnage so they can kill that Nova, or they play Winter Soldier, or I'm sorry, Bucky Barnes, who's a 2-cost 1 attack, but when he gets destroyed, he turns into a 6 attack. Well, this essentially has like Wakanda's effect, the location. No one on either side of the location can get destroyed. So it's actually a really good situation if you have something you want to protect, or if you want to shut down other opposite destroy decks. I think this is one of my favorite tech cards from this list. Very solid card. Up next, we got Scarlet Witch, who is just incredible. You can put her in pretty much any deck you want. She's a 2-cost 3 attack. On reveal, replace this location with a random one. You won't play this every game. A lot of times you won't play it on turn 2, but it can really bail you out. If there's a location that, say Gamma Lab, where they're just loading things up, well, you can easily, they load it up with a bunch of junk units. You could swap it right before it turns all their units into Hulk, and now you could win that location pretty easy because they're loaded up with junk. If it's the Nexus and it's giving a ton of power to everybody, you can kind of play away from that and then turn it at the very end to a different location. The only downfall for Scarlet Witch is that she can, it is a random location, so it could end up screwing you if you get like a bad draw or something that you're just not expecting. But in general, I think she can fit. If you're looking for a 2-drop that just gives you a good flexibility for a lot of different options, I think Scarlet Witch is one of the best in the game. Morph is a very interesting card. He's a 3-cost 0 power. On reveal, become a copy of a random card in your opponent's hand. So if they don't have a hand, he stays as a 0, which can be rough. Doesn't happen often. But if they're, you can either hit something big if they're using a lot of big units. So if you're facing a lot of decks that are like Jubilee based, which she essentially wants to run heavy cost units in that deck, you could put Morph in your deck to become a, almost a more guaranteed 3, 4, 5, or 6 drop. But if you're playing a lot of Swarm decks, you're not going to get a whole lot of value from Morph because you're more than likely going to hit like a 1 drop or a 2 drop, etc. But playing Morph later in the game is always a better option than playing them earlier because they should be using the early cost cards as they go. So then you can hopefully morph into something big. Kind of a pretty RNG based card. You got to get a little lucky here with morph. But if your deck doesn't have a really great 3-drop answer and the meta thinks you think you could fit this in to that current meta where you're facing a lot of big units, morph's a solid option. Cosmo is a just incredible option as well as a 3-drop 3 attack, so okay stats. Ongoing on reveal abilities won't happen at this location, so we can completely shut down on reveal abilities at a location, which is pretty great. Now, if you want to try to time this and try to hit them at the same time as they're playing cards here, you do have to be able to reveal first, because if they reveal first, they will reveal all their cards, get their on reveal abilities, it'll go to you, you won't have any to, you won't have Cosmo out yet to actually stop that. So make sure that if you're trying to hit the exact location where they're playing something that turn, make sure to play on the turns where you reveal first. But if not, you can just shut down a location. You can see that, okay, one location got filled up early. I think they're going to need some on-reveal abilities on the right side. Well, you can just completely shut that down and make them have to play around this a little bit. Now, it can be semi-easy to play around if you do just play this card on turn 3, but again, it can completely make them, shift their strategy a little bit, or you can get lucky and hit units as they're getting revealed. Regardless, I think there's a few different spots this guy could make it into, especially when there's a hot location with on-reveal abilities, or you're playing into a pretty heavy on-reveal type meta, like with White Tiger, Odin, etc. If you're playing into a lot of that, I think Cosmo's a great addition, because you could easily just, essentially, they play White Tiger or they play Ironheart, you play Cosmo right on that location, so when they do play Logan or Odin, it won't cause any effect, which would be great. Only 2 left here. We got Enchantress. She's pretty cool. She's a 4-drop, 4 attacks. So okay stats again, just decent. On reveal, remove the abilities from all ongoing cards at this location. So you need to, it's not quite like Cosmo, who ongoing shuts down on reveal abilities at this location. This is like a one-time pop from Enchantress, who will remove the abilities from ongoing cards at this location. So you can't play this early and know to shut down all ongoing. That's going to happen later, but what it's really good at is against Swarm decks. If they have things like Khazar and Captain America on one location, you can easily drop this on 4 and really shut down a lot of board presence for those type of decks. Really, really good anti-Swarm synergy, where if you're seeing a lot of decks with Iron Man, Onslaught, Namor, things like that, you can shut down those ongoing abilities for 4 mana, and it's super big swing. Up next is Professor X. This one's a little bit weird. He is he's kind of just like a risky play. I'm not even sure where, exactly what deck you want to run him in, but he's a 5-cost 3 attack unit, so he's pretty cheap. Pretty weak. His ongoing effect is lock down this location. Cards can't be added, removed, etc. So it locks it down. You can't move cards into the location, can't play cards into the location. You can't like White Tiger and then the Tiger Spirit go into that location. You can't do any of that. So it makes it pretty difficult to time. So you need to play this when you're winning that location and then have it locked down. So if you don't time it right and they are playing units there and they end up winning this location and then you lock it down, it's a pretty big risk. But if you think you can get the predictability game on them and be able to play this in opportune times to lock down a location while you're winning it, then I say try Professor X out, because he's a really good tech option in those scenarios. So I think these are the tech cards for Pool 1. I think there's 8 of them. You could definitely argue that there's a few more through Pool 1, and now I'm getting into Pool 2, so some of these cards here are Pool 2 cards. There's definitely a few others that I would kind of classify as like slightly tech cardy, but I think these are the main ones that you're going to try to answer different situations with. A lot of the other ones kind of fill into certain categories, certain synergies, while some are just kind of vanilla units or something like that, which there is a synergy for just blank units later. But I think these are the 8 main tech cards of Pool 1. So if this was of interest to you as I go throughout the game, I can gladly do a Pool 2 tech card option. Definitely plan to do a Pool 2 top deck list, kind of like I did for the Pool 1 cards. That video seemed to be pretty successful. So if you guys are enjoying any of that content, leave a like, leave a subscription. Let me know what else you want to see from Marvel Snap. So until next time, keep snapping.